Before humanity, an empire of giants ruled the Earth for over 150 million years. This is the story of their final day. On a throne of stone, a tyrant king surveys his domain as a pre-dawn thunderstorm, reseeds a world of lush ferns and towering redwoods, a kingdom he rules with a bone-shattering bite, and senses so sharp they could detect the scent of fear on the wind. He is the product of a long and brutal dynasty, an apex predator at the absolute peak of its power. But how does an empire fall when it has no rivals? What happens when the enemy comes not from the land, but from the stars? Now, let's journey back in time and uncover the story of a lost world. The sun breaks over the horizon, its pale light filtering through the dense canopy of magnolias and sycamores. The air, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying vegetation after the night's storm, hums with the drone of ancient insects. This is the world as it has been for millions of years, the Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous period. A vast, subtropical floodplain stretches across what will one day be called North America, a landscape of meandering rivers, dense forests, and open fern prairies. This is the Hell Creek Formation, an empire at the peak of its glory. Our Tyrannosaurus, a mature male in his prime, descends from the rocky overlook. His hunger is sated from a previous hunt, the remains of a young Edmontosaurus, now sustenance for smaller scavengers. His massive footfalls, each pressing deep into the soft mud, are deliberate, measured. He is not hunting, but patrolling the borders of his territory, a stretch of river and forest he defends with unmatched ferocity. His two-fingered arms, often seen as comical by future observers, are muscular and functional, used for gripping struggling prey or helping him rise from a resting position. But his true weapons are his head, a 6-foot battering ram of solid bone, and a jaw capable of exerting over 12,000 pounds of pressure. He is, in every sense, a perfect killing machine, the undisputed ruler of his world. A few miles away, in a clearing where giant ferns give way to early flowering shrubs, a different kind of power is on display. A herd of Triceratops horridus moves slowly, their great horned faces methodically stripping leaves and tough cycads. Their enormous frills, laced with blood vessels, are not just for defense, but also for display, a vibrant billboard of health and status. A large female, her brow horns worn and scarred from countless battles, stands guard as her calf stays close to her immense legs. She is the embodiment of resilience, a walking fortress designed to withstand the very predator now patrolling his domain. The constant threat of the tyrant king is a fact of her life, a pressure that has shaped her species' evolution. The ecosystem bustles around these giants. A flock of long-legged ornithomimus, feathered and bird-like, pecks at seeds and insects, ready to explode into a sprint at the slightest sign of danger. In the undergrowth, a small, shrew-like mammal named Similestes darts between the roots of a giant sequoia, its whiskers twitching, sensing the world through scent and vibration. It lives a life in the shadows of giants, a furtive existence spent avoiding the crushing feet and hungry jaws that dominate this era. For every creature in this world, from the mighty Tyrannosaurus to the humble mammal, this day begins as any other. The concerns are immediate and timeless: finding food, avoiding predators, protecting young. The sky is a brilliant, untroubled blue. Life continues its ancient, intricate dance, unaware that it is a performance on the edge of a precipice, a final act before the curtain falls forever. As the sun climbs to its zenith, a deceptive peace settles over the land. The Tyrannosaurus rests in the dappled shade of a colossal redwood, its breathing deep and steady. The great Triceratops herd has moved to the bank of a wide, slow-moving river, drinking and wallowing in the cool mud. The smaller creatures of Hell Creek go about their timeless business, their world dictated by the sun above and the earth beneath. But today, the sky is no longer a constant. It begins as a flicker, a pinprick of light where no star should be. It is easily missed, a tiny flaw in the vast blue canvas. But it does not vanish. Hour by hour, it grows, swelling from a distant spark into a distinct, unwavering gleam. It is brighter than any star, outshining even the brightest planet. It is a second sun, small and fierce, hanging ominously in the heavens. The animals are the first to feel that something is profoundly wrong. The herd of Ornithomimus ceases its frantic foraging. The creatures stand frozen, their long necks craned upwards, their large, bird-like eyes fixed on the celestial intruder. Their instincts, honed over generations to detect the snap of a twig or the scent of a predator, have no frame of reference for a threat that comes from the sky itself. The Triceratops matriarch senses their fear. She lifts her massive head, the water dripping from her beak-like mouth. Her gaze follows theirs to the strange light. She issues a low, guttural grunt, a sound of uncertainty that ripples through the herd. The calves press closer to their mothers. This is a danger that cannot be charged, that cannot be met with horns and a shield-like frill. It is an unnerving, silent menace. Even the tyrant king is stirred from his rest. He lifts his head, nostrils flaring. His forward-facing eyes, granting him excellent binocular vision, lock onto the object. It is moving. He can now perceive, on a trajectory unlike any flying creature he has ever known. A deep, guttural rumble emanates from his chest, not a roar of aggression, but a sound of profound confusion. The king is witnessing something beyond his comprehension. What they are watching is a cosmic messenger of death. A 6-mile-wide asteroid, a mountain of rock and metal forged in the birth of the solar system, is making its final continuance, violent approach. For millions of years, it has traveled a lonely path through the void, but now its journey is about to end. It is screaming through the vacuum of space at over 40,000 miles per hour, a speed so immense that the thin upper atmosphere ignites around it, wrapping it in a shroud of incandescent plasma. This is the light they see. It is the friction of a world killer burning its way home. Its target, the shallow, turquoise seas of the Gulf of Mexico, thousands of miles to the south, but the consequences of its arrival will be felt across the entire globe. There is no sound, only light. On the southern horizon, a flash erupts with the intensity of 1 billion suns. It is a sterile, silent, impossible white that momentarily erases all shadows. searing the landscape onto the retinas of every creature looking in its direction. The Tyrannosaurus recoils, its sensitive eyes overwhelmed. The Triceratops herd panics, stampeding blindly. For a few terrifying seconds, the world is bleached of all color. The silence is a lie. Thousands of miles away, the mountain from space has struck the shallow sea of the Yucatan Peninsula. It has vaporized instantly, taking with it 100 cubic miles of the Earth's crust. The energy released is 1,000 times greater than the world's entire nuclear arsenal detonating at once. A crater 100 miles wide and 20 miles deep is punched into the planet, and the shockwave from this wound now travels outwards. 8 minutes after the flash, the ground itself becomes the enemy. The seismic waves arrive. It is not a tremor. It is a liquid surge. The Earth's surface heaves and rolls in waves dozens of feet high. The mighty Tyrannosaurus, a creature of immense power and balance, is thrown from its feet like a child's toy. It bellows in shock and pain as the very ground it commands betrays it. Ancient redwoods, survivors of countless storms, are torn from their roots and tossed aside. Cliff sides shear off, sending avalanches of rock and soil into the churning river valleys. The Triceratops herd is decimated, their heavy bodies unable to cope with the violent, unpredictable motion. The matriarch fights to stay upright, a desperate anchor in a world that has come unmoored, as her calf is swept away in a sudden landslide. Then, the sky begins to bleed. The blue is consumed by a bruised, angry red. The trillions of tons of vaporized rock and asteroid, blasted high above the atmosphere, have begun their descent. Across the continent, this cloud of ejecta re-enters the air as a dense storm of glassy beads, or tektites. Each bead, superheated by re-entry, glows like a miniature meteor. It is a rain of fire. The temperature of the air skyrockets. What was a humid, subtropical day becomes a convection oven in a matter of minutes. Ferns and cycads, slick with the morning's rain, now blacken and smoke, then erupt into flame. The forest floor becomes a carpet of fire. The very air becomes painful to breathe. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The apocalypse is not coming from one direction. It is falling from everywhere at once. The tyrant king, his hide scorched by the falling embers, struggles to his feet. His reign, his power, and his dynasty rendered meaningless. His kingdom has become a global funeral pyre, and the age of the dinosaurs has entered its final, agonizing hour. The firestorm rages for days, a global inferno fed by a world's worth of forests. But this burning is not the end. It is the beginning of a new, more insidious extinction. The immense fires pump trillions of tons of soot and ash into the upper atmosphere, where it joins the fine dust of the pulverized asteroid. This thick, black shroud spreads across the globe, wrapping the planet in a dark cloak. The sun, which had been a distant, blood-red orb through the haze, now vanishes entirely. A perpetual twilight, a deep and chilling darkness, descends upon the earth. And with the darkness comes the cold. Without the sun's life-giving warmth, global temperatures plummet. The once balmy, subtropical air of Hell Creek turns frigid. The rain that falls is a black, acidic sludge that poisons the rivers and chokes the land. What isn't burned is now being buried under a blanket of gray, toxic ash that falls like a never-ending snow. This is the impact winter. It is a nuclear winter without the war. Our Tyrannosaurus, the once invincible king, stumbles through this nightmare landscape. His hide is a patchwork of severe burns from the heat pulse. One of his legs was broken in the earthquake, and he now limps, dragging the limb uselessly behind him. His thunderous roar has been reduced to a ragged, wheezing cough as his lungs are seared by the toxic air. He's a king with no kingdom, a hunter with no prey. The charred carcasses of other dinosaurs are all he can find, but even this source of food is scarce. His true enemy is now the world itself. The air, the water, the very ground beneath his feet. Elsewhere, the Triceratops matriarch makes her last stand. She survived the earthquake that claimed her young, her great strength carrying her through the initial chaos. But her strength cannot create food where none exists. The ferns and cycads, the foundation of her existence, are gone, either incinerated or coated in a layer of deadly ash. Day by day, she grows weaker. The magnificent frill droops. The powerful body shudders with cold and hunger. A fortress built to withstand the bite of a Tyrannosaurus is starved into submission by the absence of a single leaf. This is the great dying. Across the planet, the chain of life is snapping, link by link. With no sunlight, photosynthesis ceases. The plants die. The herbivores that eat the plants starve. And the carnivores that eat the herbivores are the last to follow. In the oceans, the plankton die, and the entire marine ecosystem collapses with them. 75% of all species on Earth are being systematically erased. The Tyrant King's final journey ends by the bank of a black, syrupy river. The agonizing pain in his leg, the fire in his lungs, and the gnawing emptiness in his belly become too much. He stumbles, his immense weight crashing to the ground with a final, shuddering thud. He raises his head one last time, looking out at the ruined, silent world he once ruled. There is no rival to challenge, no prey to hunt, only the gentle, relentless fall of gray ash. His eye, once a terrifying orb of predatory focus, glazes over. With a final, rattling exhalation, the last breath of a tyrant escapes into the cold, dead air. The king has fallen. To recreate this journey spanning millions of years, we researched countless documents. If you appreciate that effort, please leave a like to support the team. The tyrant's reign has ended in ash and silence. But its story does not disappear. It was written into the earth, waiting millions of years for new eyes to read it. As the black snow falls, it covers the king's body, protecting it from the ravaged surface. Over seasons, then centuries, then eons, layers of mud and sand bury it deeper. The flesh gives way to time, but the bones remain. Water rich in minerals seeps into the porous structures, and slowly, molecule by molecule, bone turns to stone. The world above changes, continents drift, mountains rise, and a new form of life, small, clever mammals, inherits the earth. 66 million years later, a human hand with a delicate brush clears away the last of the dirt, revealing the colossal jaw of a fossilized giant. The story is found. Discoveries like this fueled a revolution in science, transforming our vision of dinosaurs from sluggish reptiles to the dynamic, warm-blooded, and complex creatures they were. They proved that creatures like Tyrannosaurus were not just clumsy scavengers, but active, powerful predators that commanded their environment. Its bones, now resting in a museum, are the final, silent testament to a life of struggle and dominion. A single, epic story from an age when giants truly ruled the earth. Their fall is a humbling reminder that no reign is eternal, and that our planet's story is one of profound and often violent change. We have followed the journey to the end of an era. Now, the decision is yours. Comment below with the name of an ancient ruler you want us to feature in our next documentary. The species with the most requests will be our next star.